Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to a new episode of Conscious Souls. We're delighted to be here with you today. This is Patricia, and she's a healing coach.
And this is Victoria, and she's a soul activation coach.
And we are Conscious Souls. Yoo-hoo! Okay, we are so delighted to be here with you today again. And it's going to be amazing because we are touching on a subject that most relationships function with. It's a very, very big theme, and we're going to go into today and going to look at the different styles. We're going to talk about anxious and avoidant attachment styles. So this is actually episode 1 of 3 that we're going to do about this this theme, anxious and avoidant attachment styles, and why do they hook? Why are most relationships, unconscious relationships, hooked with these, let's say, spells? Because in the end, it's nothing than a spell. It's the way we have been conditioned. It's a part of us that we live. It's a part of us that we play, the mask, so to speak, that we wear. And so today, I'm going to interview you, Patricia, my beautiful Patricia. I'm going to interview you about avoidant attachment style because that's what you have been conditioned to behave as, whereas my conditioning was turning me into an anxious attachment style person, individual. And just by the way, for those of you who haven't heard that before, Dr. Lindsay Gibson did extensive research about this theme, so you can look her up. It's very, very interesting to get into this. So we are going to speak from our perspective today, Patricia and I. I'm going to interview you. So let's get started. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Let's go. Woo!
So let's give an introduction, Patricia, for our listeners today. How would you define avoidant attachment style? What does someone who has this attachment style look like or behave?
Very shortly, it's someone that avoids and protects themselves from emotional intimacy at the same point of craving it intensely as well.
Wow. Okay, so what are some common symptoms that you would say of avoidant attachment style people?
All right. So, in romantic relationships, because this is mostly where it gets activated, in friendships as well, but in this scenario, we're going to be covering romantic relationships. Avoidant attachment styles are the people generally, when they're in a relationship, then they just get this urge to leave for no reason. They just start finding these little traits about this other person annoying for no logic reason. They just gotta leave. They're usually the first ones to break a relationship, because as soon as it starts to get cozy, intimate, it starts to get serious, they're like, hell no, I'm not made for this. This is scary as shit. Obviously, this is not consciously. They might even think it's the other person's fault. Most of the time, they will blame on the other person. So yeah, they will probably be one of the first ones to take the first steps to leave. Any sort of emotional and physical as well, but mostly emotional, because avoidants are really good at detaching their body as well from their physical body, from their emotions. So avoidants actually are really good at having, for example, one night stands or having casual hookups with different people, because they don't want to attach to anyone. So they're very good at separating the two. They're brilliant.
Yeah. So why are avoidant attachment style people so afraid of emotional intimacy? Where is that fear coming from?
Well, Victoria, like everything in our life, it comes from our childhoods. So, avoidant attachment style and anxious attachment style, which are insecure attachment styles, they actually, the root of both of them is similar. Is an unstable childhood where they didn't learn that they deserved love and love was unconditional. There's this saying that it goes, if you weren't given love as a child on a silver spoon, you'll learn to lick it out of knives.
Oh my God. Oh.
And that I feel like that goes a lot with anxious attachment style. So it comes from in your childhood having a parent that could have abandoned you physically or emotionally. It does none of these situations need to be actual physical, because the parent doesn't need to not be there physically for the child to not feel their presence. So even if the parent is there physically but is not emotionally, then them being gone might have the same effect, because what truly matters is the emotional availability of the parent. This is why sometimes when you're with a friend, they're present here with you, but you're not feeling that connection, is because they are not there emotionally. So it's having someone, having a caregiver, a father or a mother that wasn't for you there emotionally and or physically. Again, someone in your family that could have died at an early age and you were very attached to that person in your life. Or narcissistic parents. But that goes with the emotional unavailability. Everything boils down to the emotional availability, honestly. And that's how it's rooted. Because then you realize, okay, to not feel this pain ever again, I'm not going to indulge into any of these relationships again. Because this pain is too hard for me to handle. To get emotional with someone or try to, and then they reject me. This is too hard for me. I can't deal with it. And I tried it before, it didn't work. I'm not going to try again. And this is the script you have in your head subconsciously when you go into a relationship. You're like, oh, this is getting too intimate. Oh my god, I'm an avoidant attachment style. I'm gonna get too intimate. This person is gonna have a lot of power over me. I'm gonna go before they hurt me. So it's like that. Another point I wanted to mention as well, that we find ourselves as an adult engaging in this, for example, as an avoidant attachment style is very common to attract anxious attachment styles. It creates this friction between the two, because one wants something, the other wants another thing. They attract each other. And basically, what I'm talking a little bit from the anxious attachment style in this point of view. So what an anxious attachment style person would want from an avoidant person is that they are trying to, okay, if I can make this person love me, then I can break the pattern, because I couldn't make my parent love me. So they're just projecting this same pattern in their head. Oh, when I was a child, I wanted my parent to love me. They couldn't, but I tried my best and I want to do it. I'm trying. And here you continue to try because you believe you're going to break the pattern and you're going to make this person love you. And if you could do that, then you're worthy. Well, you're not going to break the pattern, because that person is not going to change for you. You're going to have to change the pattern here so that it all changes on the outside.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we do what we do, right? This healing soul activation coaching is so important, because this is how we get aware, how we become aware of all these blockages, of all these false beliefs that we're holding about ourselves and others. And then when we can release that and detach from the old self that we have been playing based on the outside conditioning, that's when we are free. And that's when we can really attain these fulfilling emotional relationships, or relationships of any kind, right? With friends and ourselves.
Exactly. Most people in our society, they are attached. It's attachment, is not connection. And it's really sad.
Let's go into this. How would you define attachment and connection? Like, what is the difference between the two for our listeners?
Interesting question. So attachment is something that we are not aware of. It's a programming in our subconscious, unless you're doing the work and you bring your subconscious to your conscious. So attachment is something that we are not aware of. It's just a programming that is running in our heads. It's like coding, and we seek it. It's like a rat race. We seek it. It's like a cycle. It's never ending. We finish one relationship thinking that perhaps they were the issue. Go on to another one. We do the same pattern. Same thing happens again. And you're like, what is wrong with the dating world? And I'm like, nothing is wrong with the dating world. It's all here. So it's very common to blame the outside. So attachment is very much you blame the outside world. And again, if you're not healed, if you're not healing, and you find people, you always want to find your polar opposite. So you're as an avoidant attachment, you would find an anxious attachment so that you can continue to play this role. You find people based on the role they are going to fill in your life, and if they fit the role that you need them to fit, and not because you genuinely love them. It's because they have the traits of the parent that didn't love you. They have those traits, and that's why you're trying to recreate this reality. And you're trying to recreate this reality, so you're looking for the next target to be like, oh, this one would be great to recreate the same reality in my head. Obviously, this is all unconsciously speaking.
Yeah.
You don't actually do this.
Of course. I mean, who would want to have that in his life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Connection, in the other hand, it's so beautiful. It just makes me feel so much love when I think about that word. So connection is the opposite of everything that I just mentioned. Because with attachment, there comes a lot of resistance as well. We'll resist going into a healthy relationship because that's not in alignment with your attachment. With connection, it's just flow. And connection is only possible once you are healing or you're healed. Because if you're not aware of your attachment style, then that connection is not going to happen. So once you've healed or are healing, because even when you are healing, you are already aware of this attachment style. So you are ready to go inside your mind and be like, okay, I am choosing this person based on that. Let's not do that. Let's choose this other person, or better yet, let's not choose someone until I'm done with this. Connection is what you find when you truly let go of your attachment style and you're able to see people from who they truly are. It's like taking off these glasses and seeing from they truly are, and from there you determine if you want them in your life or not. I have a very good experience with this. I had this person in my life. He was my teenage love. I was very young, 16. I thought I was completely in love with him, and he was emotionally unavailable. And me being in my avoidant attachment style, I would already choose people that were emotionally unavailable and that there was no basis for a relationship. Although I told myself, I want a relationship, my subconscious would choose people that there's no way in hell this would ever work, so that I would be safe. I was after this guy. He was totally emotional unavailable for years, and we kind of indulged in a type of casual thing. After a while, after doing a lot of work, I finally broke through from my avoidant attachment style, and we were going to meet each other. And it had been some years that we hadn't been together, and we were going to meet each other with the intention of actually being romantically, casually together, so not in a relationship. I was with him, and for the first time, I saw him for who he truly was. Someone in pain, someone hurting so much. Yeah, I took him out of this pedestal, and I just saw a hurting soul. And actually, I saw a child, which is very interesting to me. I saw a child, very fragile child. And I decided from then on that we can be friends, but we are not going to be romantically involved any longer.
And I guess that's the first step, or one of the first steps of getting out, when you become aware that you might play out symptoms of this attachment styles, more or less. That's how you actually try to heal yourself, to see this person as it truly is. So let's just summarize. Basically, so connection, real connection, is what we are all here to live. It's our birthright. And this is based on love, whereas attachment styles like avoidant, anxious, and there are others out there, all kind of insecure attachment styles are based on fear. Would you say that's correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's go to the big question. How did you heal yourself? I mean, how did you become aware that you were avoidant attachment style, and how did you heal yourself? How did you turn it around for you? And I know this is a long process and it might not be finished, but until now, I know you have done a lot of inner work just like I did. And I would like to hear your perspective on that inner work, Patricia. So, how did you become aware that you were avoidant and that something felt off in the way that you were in your relationship? Because in the end, we're not happy, right? We're not going to be happy. We're not fulfilled. And this is how we realize that something is off. So, when we realize that something is off, how do we turn it around?
You scream in Barcelona.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't know, we did a retreat in Barcelona and we took each other's hands and we were standing at the beach and we were screaming all our anger, all our insecurities. We were screaming them out into the Mediterranean Sea. But this is another theme about the retreat. Let's go ahead, Patricia. How did you turn it around for yourself other than the screaming? Because you did some inner work way before that already.
Yes, of course. I mean, I think the screaming, though, was like, I had this glass and I was adding little drops of self-improvement, little drops of self-work, self-development work in it. And the scream broke this glass. Wow. And everything just went away. And the transformation I have had after the screaming, it was amazing. So that's why I mentioned that. I think that the screaming was a catalyst for really breaking the pattern.
Right.
And we had a lot of conversations after that where I told you, Victoria, that I don't relate to this attachment style anymore. Right. So, yeah, how does one heal?
Yeah, how do you become aware that you are avoidant attachment style and how do you heal it?
I think something that you can do that helped me a lot was whenever I was going on to dates, listen to your inner voice. Are you saying, oh, I hope he likes me. I hope I look pretty or whatever. Or are you like, I hope I'll like him. I hope I'm not wasting my time. So it's listen to what script, what dialogue you're having with yourself. Because if you're going with, I hope he will like me, then you're in your attachment style. Totally. Yeah.
So would you say that I hope he likes me? Is this a symptom of both anxious and avoidant attachment?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that as an avoidant, I also had my anxious moments as well. Like being an avoidant does not mean that you don't fear some anxiety as well around dating. One thing that I did, I remember my first and only, until now, secure relationship, external, because I have a secure relationship with myself. But my one and only external romantic relationship that I have had so far, that was very healing for me. 2 months in this relationship, we were quite serious already. I was feeling this tickling, like, oh my god, what's going on? I was kind of like, something like itching, like, and I started to find flaws on this guy, which I was in love with at the time, completely. I mean, wow. I thought I was in love with, and later on when I started to let go of this attachment style, I realized I was not, but that's another point. So basically, 2 months in the relationship, I started to notice the symptoms of this avoidant attachment style. And mind you that I was in therapy during this time, so I had a professional helping me through these moments. And I was already almost aware that I was avoidant. So what I did is that, Patricia, this is what you do. It's not worth it to let go of him, because you're going to let go of him. You're going to get into another relationship. You're going to do the same. So it's just going to be a cycle. Would you rather do that and do that for the rest of your life, or be in the uncomfortable, but heal it so you can break free? And I also hope that I really like this guy. So I stayed in the uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable. It was itchy everywhere. But after a while, it actually faded away. And I don't know if that was one case that happens, but that was my experience. And it faded away. And I stayed in this relationship for 2.5 years. And it was actually very secure.
Yeah. Interesting that it faded away, because sometimes relationships are fading away because one is doing the internal work, and therefore the vibration, the frequency that we are in is shifting, it's changing. And so it's no longer a match with the other one that maybe has not done the inner healing work, or some are even not aware that there's something off. They just feel that that's the way it is because it feels so familiar. Since this is what they have, or we have lived as children, it feels so familiar. But maybe it just faded away because you did the inner work, and so you were no longer a match that hooked with his insecurities. Would you say that's correct?
I would also say that this guy, he was not anxious attachment style. And I think that's why, because if he was anxious attachment style and I tried to break free from my pattern, then he would probably come back and be like, okay, you're not anymore feeling this world and I need you to feel, then bye. Yeah. So he was actually quite secure. And I think that's why I was also freaking out. And that's why it worked, because if I had continued in this vibration of avoidant, then it wouldn't have worked, I would have left. But because I shifted it, then it was a match for a relationship to work, and that's why it worked. Later on in the relationship, it actually didn't work, but not so much from anxious avoidant attachment styles, just other matters.
Okay, so I want to quickly touch upon, for our listeners, a little more precise. Why do people get avoidant? And why do people get anxious? Just as a little recap. So my experience is, for avoidant people, parents have been too involved in your personal life. In fact, sometimes it must have felt like an invasion in your privacy from your parents. And this is why you actually developed this avoidant attachment style. Whereas for anxious attachment style, it's the opposite. There was no interest or a lot of rejection for the child. There was no invasion whatsoever. There was no interest in the child's life. The parent was too self-absorbed, and the child just didn't have space, And this is how children or adults then become anxious, because we are craving for that emotional intimacy. Whereas for anxious avoidant attachment style people, there was too much attention, too much invasion, too much lack of privacy, whatever. And this is why they became avoidant. Would you say that's true?
I completely agree with you, Victoria. And another thing that makes it so that what you're saying is so true is that I was raised by what I call at least one anxious attachment style parent. And the other one had actually a lot of anxious traits as well. So I would say that my parents were actually very anxious attached. Therefore, they raised an avoidant attachment person because they craved my attention so much, and they completely didn't have boundaries when it comes to privacy and emotions and anything like that. So they violated me and abused me in that way. And for you, I know that your primary caregiver is actually an avoidant attachment style. So it's very common for the parents that are raising the child, if the primary caregiver, and by primary I mean who you attach the most, doesn't necessarily need to be your mom or your dad. If that caregiver was anxious, then you most probably are avoidant. And if they were avoidant, then you most probably are anxious.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that avoidant attachment style parents raise anxious attachment style children, and anxious attachment style parents raise avoidant attachment style children.
Yeah. I mean, that has been my experience so far.
Okay, so to break through of this vicious cycle, what is your number one tip to break through from avoidant attachment style so that you can finally have the connection that you seek with your partner?
Observing yourself. Yeah, questioning yourself, asking why all the time. It's a lot of work. Sometimes it's tiring. Most of the time it's very tiring. But asking, why am I doing this? Why am I feeling this about this guy? Why? That needs to be your go-to question.
So that requires curiosity about yourself, vulnerability to go back into the hurting, and also courage to get to know yourself better.
Yeah. Ask why until you cry. That's when you know you hit the spot.
Ask why until you cry. That's an amazing tip. Patricia, thank you so much. I really appreciated this interview. Is there any last thoughts that you want to share with our avoidant attachment style listeners? If any of you could relate to what Patricia was sharing with you today. Yeah, any last words that you want to give to our listeners?
I want you to know that I know how isolating and hurting it is to be in that attachment style, and how much it can feel like you're in a war with yourself at points. And that takes a lot of vital energy out of you, and it's excruciating because you feel like there's something broken within you, but you're not broken. And it just takes a little patience to do the work so that you can finally feel the love that is out there for you, because it's all about allowing yourself to feel this love and feeling safe in this love, and knowing that whatever happens, you got you, and you're gonna be okay.
Wow, Patricia, thank you so much. And for all our listeners, I was talking about a retreat before. Yes, actually, we are working on a retreat that we're going to do, Patricia and I. If you are interested, we will share more about this retreat in future episodes, so stay tuned. It was a pleasure connecting with all of you today. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Patricia, for all the knowledge that you shared. As I said, stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to talk about anxious attachment style and how that influences a person. How is that betraying a person to live fully and authentically? And I'm looking forward.
And I'll be interviewing Victoria on that one.
Yeah, you will. All right, my darling. Well, thank you so much, all to our listeners. Mwah. Be blessed, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.